So already we just started with this, the process scheduling algorithms, and I have explained there are two types of algorithms. One is the preemptive algorithms, and second one is the non-preemptive algorithms. So first, the non-preemptive algorithms we started. We have seen three algorithms, but before that, again I'll tell you that diagram, this diagram, right? So see. Whatever algorithms we have in our hand, either in preemptive or non-preemptive. So all these algorithms are related to this ready queue. You can see this. It means when that process comes into this ready queue, then and then that algorithm is picking that process. Otherwise, that algorithm is not picking that process. So whatever is the Gantt chart I just told you. So that Gantt chart from this ready queue only. After this will send to the CPU, and that processor will either completely execute that process or it preempt that process and take the another one, right? So depends on that. So the preemptive and non-preemptive algorithms are there, right? So we have seen these. These are the six the scheduling algorithms. One more algorithm I just wanted to include into this, that is priority scheduling. So the priority scheduling is in either that preemptive as well as in non-preemptive. So non-preemptive, that is very simple. I just told you the three algorithms yesterday. So first come first serve, shortage of first, and longage of first. So these three I just already told you, the non-preemptive algorithms. If you consider the priority scheduling, in that case only that priority will be considered, right? So I'll take that preemptive, the priority scheduling. So there you will understand that, and also I'll just explain there how that would be the non-preemptive, right? So this we have seen. These are the terms like arrival time, burst time, completion time, turnaround time, waiting, and response. So I think these two examples, the three algorithms I have taken, this is one example under FCFS. Already I just solved this example in last lecture, so just simply show you these things. Only I think yesterday I have not told you how to calculate that average turnaround time, average waiting time, and average response time. So here that thing is I have written here. So average turnaround time is what? Whatever is the addition of all these values like 2, 3, 3, and 6. So make the addition of these and divide it by number of processes. So number of processes are 4. So whatever is the total of this, that is divided by the number of processes. You can see here. So 6 and 6, 12, and this 2, 14. So 14 by 4, that is 3.5. So same thing is for that the average waiting time and response time. Make the addition of all these values and divide it by 4. Right. So this was only the in yesterday's lecture I had not told you this part. Now this was the second, shortage of first. So this shortage of first, this is we have seen using non-preemptive. So same thing we'll see using the preemptive also. So that same thing would be here. This example, these values, and these are the average turnaround time, waiting time, and response time for this also. And for the longage of first, the same thing would be there. Okay. So this we have seen in last lecture. So today we'll just move towards the preemptive algorithms. Now, as I said, in preemptive algorithm, if that the process is submitted for the execution to the processor, that processor will not complete that process, or that processor will not completely execute that process. It executes some part, and then it preempts or stop, and it just send back to the ready state, and whatever is the new process, that will be taken by the processor, right? So I'll tell you with example this again. So I'll just open this. same example I have just given here, but I cannot write here. I cannot solve this. So that's why I'll just use the whiteboard. Okay. One minute. Okay. So first, that I'll tell you the shortest remaining time first. Remaining time first, or we can say it as SRTF, or whatever we have used at SJF. Also, we can call this as shortage of first, right? But when we say that shortage of first, so we can solve this problem using preemptive and non-preemptive. So this is using preemptive, right? So either in the exam, they'll say like shortest remaining time first or SJF with preemptive, right? So either they'll say, so you just think carefully and then solve it. So I'll just take example. Suppose I'll write here process number, arrival time, and burst time. Okay. So P1, P2, P3, and P4. Suppose these are the four processes, and the processes comes like oh, suppose oh, 0, 1, 2, and 4. And the burst time or execution time is 5, 3, 4, and 1. Okay. So this is your problem, right? Now see, this is given and criteria, as this is the shortage of first or shortest remaining time first. So here that criteria would be your burst time, right? And that mode is preemptive. And the formula that we know, the yesterday I just told you, turnaround time as CT minus AT, then waiting time as turnaround time minus burst time, and last is response time. This is that when that CPU gets first time that process, so that is CPU first time minus arrival time, right? Now see, as we know, we need that Gantt chart for this. This is the Gantt chart, right? And that initial value that we know, that is 0. Now see, this is the initial value, and we need to check which process comes at 0 time, right? So you see here, this is the arrival time here. So here, which process is there that comes at 0? So definitely that P1 is the process that comes at 0 time, right? But see, in this, one thing you just know, uh, the processor checks ready queue for every unit of time. It means like here, suppose this is a P1 is the process and that the burst time is 5. So this processor will not execute that P1 process for 5 units of time. That you just think here. So how much time this will execute? So that process will execute 1 unit of time. Like here, so now this process comes at 0 time. So first we'll take the P1 here, right? So see, whatever is that burst time or that processor will execute, or whatever that P1 process would be in running state, so that time is 1 unit of time. We can also consider the 2 unit of time, but if suppose any other process comes in between that, then there would be a problem. That's why for every unit of time, that processor checks that ready queue, right? Now here, see that time is 1 here. Now at this 1 unit of time, again we need to check, is there any process that is there into the ready queue. So you can see here that P2 is the process that comes in the ready queue at 1 unit of time. So we'll see here, I'll write here. So now in queue, ready queue, that P2 would come, right? So here. So in ready queue, that P2 is there because at 1 unit of time that P2 arrives into the ready queue. Now whatever is the burst time of that P2, that is 3. And see, whatever is the burst time of that P1 right now, because 1 unit of time is been executed. So now here, I'll see to take this, right? Remaining time is 4 because 1 unit of time already executed this P1. So remaining time is 4. Now see, again, what that processor will do, whatever is this P1, because that P1 executed 1 unit of time. So this will again send to the ready queue. Now see, from these two, P1 and P2, you just check which one is having the shortest burst time. Now here, that P1 is having 4 unit of time and that P2 is having 3 unit of time. So it means which process that processor will take for the execution. So definitely that P2 will take, because that P2 execution time is 3 and that is smaller than this P1. So that's why this will take P2. Again, that processor will execute this process for 1 unit of time. So this is 2. Getting this? Now, again, this will check, is there any process that arrives at 2 unit of time? So definitely that you can see here, this process is there. The P3 is there at 2 unit of time and that burst time is 4. So what this will do, this remaining time is 2 because that P2 executed for 1 unit of time. Now this P1, then P3 and P2, right? So these 3 processes are there into the ready queue. Now from these 3, you need to check which one is having smaller the burst time. So see that P3 is having 4, P2 is having 2, and this P1 is having 4. So from these 3, so you see that P2 is having the smaller burst time. So you can see here, again that processor will take P2 here. 1 minute. This P2, right? And again this will execute for 1 unit of time. It means this is 3. Now here, this processor will again check, is there any process that arrives at 3 unit of time? So there is no, because whatever is this P4, that P4 is arriving at 4 unit of time and that P2 is here at 3, right? So it means only 3 processes are there. So after just executing this P2, so that P2 time will be 1, right? Now again this will check the ready queue. So in ready queue, P1, P3, and P2 processes are there. So from this again, 4, this is 4, this is 1, and this is 4. So again, that P2 will be taken by the processor for the execution because that P2 is having smaller time, and that is 1. So this is having this 4. Now again that processor will check, is there any process that arrives at 4 unit of time? So yes, that P4 is there, that arrives at 4 unit of time. And one more thing again here, after just execution of this P2, so whatever is this burst time, this becomes 0. It means this process gets completed, right? P2 is gets over. Now in queue, right now that P1, P3, and P4. So these three processes are there into the ready queue. So P1 is having 4 unit of time, P3 is 4, and P4 is having single unit of time, that is 1 unit of time. So from these three, so which one that processor will take? So P4 will that processor take. So this will take P4 and this will execute for 1 unit of time. And if you see that burst time of that P4 is 1, so that is again been completed. So this completed, this one, and this becomes 0, right? Now in queue, only P1 and P3, these the two processes are there. So what is the execution time of P1? That is 4, and P3 is again 4. Now see here, both processes are having the same unit of time, that execution time. So in this case, what you can do? So in this case, you just check that arrival time. So which process comes first? So definitely that P1 coming first. So you just pick that P1 first, right? So I'll just take P1 here. So this one, and this becomes 3, right? Again, that P1 and P3 is in ready state. You check that P1 is 3 and P3 is 4. So again, this will take P1. This will becomes 2 now, and this is P1, so 7. Again, this is 1, so again, this will take P1. This is 8, 1. And the lastly, whatever is this one, again, this will take P1. This becomes 0, and this is 1, right? Or you can simply write from here, so direct the 5 to 9. But for simplicity, you just take 1 unit of time. And lastly, oh, in queue, only P3 is there. So as there is a single process in ready queue, so you can take that one simply, and whatever is the burst time of this is 4. So 9 plus 4 is 13, right? This one. So have you understood this, the Gantt chart?
Yes,
This
sir.
one. So now rest is what we need to calculate, that completion time, turnaround time, waiting time, and the response time. So we'll see completion time, turnaround time, waiting time, and response time. So for P1, when that P1 is completed, so if you see here, see, don't consider this block because here that P1 is not completed, right? So where that P1 is completed, so if you see, this is the last block here. So here that P1 completes its execution here. So here P1 completed its execution. So we can say this 9 is the execution time for this P1. Now what about P2? So where that P2 is completed its execution, So if you see here, P2, so this one, you can see here that P2 is completed its execution. So here that P2, right? So what is that execution time for P2? That is 4. Now what about P3? So when that P3 is completed execution, so at this point, so here that P3 have completed its execution, so that we can say that is 13. And what about P4? So P4 is completed its execution at this point, this one. So we can say this is 5, this one, right? So this is the completion time. Now we'll just go with the turnaround time. So turnaround time formula is completion time minus arrival time. So for P1, that completion time is 9 and arrival time is 0. So that becomes 9 minus 0 is 9. Now what about this P2? So 4 minus 1, that becomes 3. Now this 13 minus 2, that becomes 11. And this 5 minus 4, that becomes 1. This is the turnaround time. And waiting time is turnaround time minus burst time. So this, so 9 minus 4 or 5, that becomes 4. Now see, the 9 minus original burst time you just take, don't consider this values. So whatever is the original value of that burst time, that you take. So 9 minus 5, that becomes 4. Then this 3 minus 3, this becomes 0. Then 11 minus 4, this, so that becomes 7. And 1 minus 1, that becomes 0. Now see, in non-preemptive case, we had seen that waiting time is equal with the response time, but this is the not the non-preemptive, this is the preemptive. So we need to calculate. Now see, response time formula is CPU first time minus arrival time. So when that process gets first time CPU, that value we just consider minus arrival time. So for the process P1, so when that process P1 gets CPU first time, so add the 0, you can see here, right? So 0 minus arrival time is 0. So we can say this is 0. Now second, P2. So when that P2 gets first time that CPU, so you can see here that P2 is getting that CPU first time, right? So this is value 1. So 1 minus this arrival time is 1, so that becomes again 0. Now second, the P3, when that P3 is getting the CPU first time, so here you can see at 9, right? At 9, that P3 gets the CPU first time minus that arrival time is 2, so that becomes 7. And the last one, P4, where this got at 4, you can see here. So at 4, this P4 got the CPU first time, so 4 minus 4, that becomes 0. Have you understood this? So now we can calculate the average turnaround time, average waiting time, and average completion time also. So the number of processes are 4. So you can see here, average turnaround time is how much? 9 plus the 20, 23, and 24. So 24 by 4, you just calculate this. This is 6. So similarly, you just calculate this average time and completion time, right? So this was the shortest remaining time first, right? One example I'll just give you that you just try at your home, so that you can try. I'll not take here, but just will give you as a kind of homework. Process number, arrival time, and burst time. So P1, P2, P3, P4, and suppose P5. 2, 1, 4, sorry, 1 minute. 1, 4, 0, 2, and this is 1, 5, 1, 6, and 2. You just take this as a problem and calculate the completion time, turnaround time, waiting time, and burst time. So using this as well with printing, right? So if you are having any doubt here, you can ask me. Otherwise, I'll just go for the second one. Second one is also the simple one. If you understood this one, so this concept is fixed. Only here, if you see, you need to maintain this one ready queue. If you are maintaining this ready queue, then you will understand how to solve this one, right? Now next is longest given time first, right? With preemptive, this one. So here in previous case, we had considered that burst time smallest. Now here we need to consider whichever is the largest burst time that we need to consider. And here also you just that processor will execute that process 1 unit of time. Okay. So that would be like process number, arrival time, and burst time. Zero, 1, 4, and 5. Four, 5. So this is the problem statement. Here just leave somewhat bigger space. Okay. And same thing criteria would be is burst time here and mode preemptive and the formula. I'll not write it because you know the formulas every time. I'll not write these formulas, right? So we'll see with again the Gantt chart. This one, right? And the initially we can say this is the 0 time. Now here we are considering the longest time, right? Longest burst time that we are considering here. But see, don't simply find out the process which is having the longest burst time from this, right? Because if you see this, then the P2 would be the having longest time. But this is not the case because we need to first consider whether that process is there into ready queue or not. If that process is there into the ready queue, then and then you can consider it for the scheduling, right? Now, at 0 unit of time, is there any process that is arriving into the ready queue? So yes, that P1 is having the arrival time 0, you can see here. So it means I can take that P1 process, right, for the execution, and that time would be 1 unit of time, right? Now you check, is there after just execution of this you can see this would be 1. Remaining time would be 1. Right? So at 1 unit of time, is there any process which is there into the ready queue? So yes, this process there, that is P2, that would be in ready queue. So that P2 is there. I'll write over here. I'll write to this side. P2 is the process that is there into the ready queue, okay? And P1 executed only 1 unit of time, and that remaining time is 1. So as this P2, and again we'll consider that P1 because this will be switched. So from P1 and P2, which is having longest time, that you need to consider. So P1 is having that 2 unit of time and that P2 is having 5 unit of time. So it means that P2 is having longest time, so that processor will take that P2, right? So P2 will be taken by the processor, suppose, and that is 1 unit of time. So here, sorry, this would be 4, right? So again, this will check that ready queue, is there any process that is been arrived at 2 unit of time? So no, because that P3 and P4 both are arriving at 4 and 5 unit of time. So it means at 2, only that P1 is there into the ready queue and P2 will contest switch. So again, this will check P1 and P2, so that P2 is having longest time. So again, this will consider P2. So P2, this one. So now here, this becomes 3. Again, if you see, at 3 unit of time, there is no any other new process into ready queue, only P1, P2 is there. So compare this P2 and P1. So again, that P2 is having the higher value or higher burst time. So this will take P2 and this becomes 2, right? And here, this one, 4. Now again, that the processor will check, is there any process that is arrived at 4 unit of time? So yes, definitely that P3 is arrived at 4 unit of time. It means in process the ready queue, P2, P1 and P3. So these 3 processes are there into the ready queue. So now we need to check that P1 burst time is 1, P2 burst time is 2 and P3 burst time is 3. So P3 burst time is the more or greater than these two. So that's why this processor will take P3. This for 5. Now again, this processor will check, is there any process that is arrived at 5 unit of time? So that P4 is arrived at 5 unit of time. So we can consider P2, P1, P3 and P4. And after execution of this becomes 2, right? Now in the ready queue, P2, P1, P3, P4. So all the processes are there. So now you need to compare. So P1 is having 2 burst time. Then P2, P3 and P4, these 3 are having the 2 units that is equal, right? So then which one we can consider here? So as I said, if the time is equal, then we can go one step back. It means you just go with this arrival time and check that arrival time. Suppose in that case also that arrival time is same, then you can go with the this process number, right? So here that P1 arrival time is 1 and P1 arrival time, sorry, P1 is 1, but the comparison we are doing in P2, P3, P4, because this is 2, this is 2, and this is 2. So from these 3, that P2 is having the less arrival time, so you need to consider that P2 for the execution. So here, take P2, this one. Now again, this will check, is there any process that arrived in ready queue at 6 unit of times? No. only already whatever the processes are, so these processors are there. So once we take P2, so this becomes 1. Again, this will compare these four. So P1, P2, these two are having single unit of time, and P3, P4, these are having the 2, 2. So again, it will check as these 2, 2 is same. So arrival time of P3 is smaller. So that P3 will be taken for the execution. And this becomes 7. Right? So here P3, it becomes 1. And again, when this comparison made, so P4 is having the greater time. So this will take P4, this would be 8, and this P4 value becomes 1. Now, if you see this one, at this moment, the all processes are having the burst time, that is 1. So as I said, you can consider the arrival time in this case. So arrival time of P1 is smaller than P2, then P3 and P4. So sequentially you can write here P1, P2, P3 and P4. You can say this. So this is the Gantt chart for this one, right? For this example. So from this, you can calculate completion time, turnaround time, waiting time, and response time. So that when that process P1 gets completed, its execution. So if you see here, so here I'll take another color. So here that P1 completed its execution. Here that P2 completed its execution. Here that P3 completed execution, and here P4 completed execution. It means 9, 10, 11, 12, right? So completion time is 9, 10, 11, 12. Right? Now what about the turnaround time? So turnaround time is what? The completion time minus arrival time. So this is 9 minus 9, sorry, 9 minus 0 is 0. 10 minus 1 is 9. Now 11 minus 4, that becomes 7. 12 minus 5, that becomes again 7. What about waiting time? So waiting time is turnaround time minus burst time. So turnaround time is 9 minus burst time is 2. So this becomes 7. Again 9 minus 5, this becomes 4. 7 minus 3, again 4. And 7 minus 5, sorry, 7 minus 2, that is 5. And what about the response time? So response time formula is what? The CPU, when that process gets CPU first time minus arrival time. So P1 process when gets first time CPU, I'll change your color again of this one. Suppose you put P0 at 0. So 0 minus arrival time is 0. So that becomes 0, right? Now P2, when that P2 gets first time CPU, so here that P2 gets first time CPU, this one. So the time is 1 and arrival time is again 1. So 1 minus 1 is 0. Now what about P3? So when that P3 got the first time that CPU, so here that P3 got the first time that CPU. So that value is 4 and the arrival time is 4. So that becomes 0. Now what about P4? So P4 got here first time. So that is 7 minus 5, that becomes 2, right? So this is what the longest remaining time first using the preempting. So have you understood this concept again? because the things are very simple. Only don't be confused here, because in both cases we have to consider that unit, 1 unit of time that processor will consider. I'll say CPU will consider 1 unit time, right? So this is the main thing. And second thing, you need to consider that arrival time. Based on that arrival time and criteria, so you can select that process and you can draw the Gantt chart. So once you complete that Gantt chart, so your 90% work would be completed. Simply from that Gantt chart, you can calculate the completion value, turnaround value, waiting value, and response value. Right? So that Gantt chart is most important. You need to uh, complete it properly. Once you complete, so 90% work would be complete. Right? So I think these are the two processes, two algorithms, and we have seen using the preemptive. Okay. So if you are having any doubt into this, please ask me. Uh, I'll stop here. Tomorrow I'll just wind up this unit. We'll complete all these the scheduling algorithms. And see, in final exam, mostly on this unit, that numerical is asked. So prepare the numericals here, because in this unit only the numericals are here. And one assignment, that programming assignment I'll give you based on this unit also. Okay. So if you are having any query, you can ask me.